Hello, everybody. Welcome to Week 7 college football predictions. It's just rolling right along. No Sevens is having a weird year, just struggling over here. I thought 2020 was going to be difficult, but obviously 2021 is being a little bit more difficult. The three things that we learned this week. Bama's win streak comes to an end. Their last loss was back in Auburn of 2019, and before that was LSU of 2019. They lost to Texas A&M. I called it last week. I said, this is the one that everybody was putting on their calendar, that this was going to be it. This is where College Game Day was supposed to be. It was going to be the game of the year. Well, it was so far a huge event. Alabama, Nick Saban, I should say, lost to his assistant. First time ever. He was 24-0. Very impressive record. Now he's 24-1. Still a very impressive record to his assistants. And if you guys are not familiar with that, Jimbo Fisher was Nick Saban's assistant at LSU back in the early 2000s before Nick Saban went to Miami. Anyway. So we're past the halfway point in college football. Hard to believe it's already the halfway point, or even past it. So it's just rolling right along. Big Ten is looking good. That Penn State Iowa game, I just don't know what happened to that game. I got to watch a little bit of it. Had a lot to do on Saturday, but I was able to watch a little bit of the highlights. It looked like Penn State had the game for a while, and Iowa showed why they're the number 3 team in the nation so far, getting ready to probably be the number 2 team. So Big Ten looking good, hanging in there. All right, so our bully picks are Cincinnati, Texas A&M, Georgia, Bama, and if you want to be a little bit of a risk taker, Texas. Last week we went 2-3-1. We tied a game. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So right now we're 11 wins, 17 losses, and 1 tie. So hopefully this is the week we can turn it around. Let's dive right into it. All right, Florida is going to LSU, minus 10.5. I have a couple of notes when I was writing that down this week. If you remember, this was the game that Max Johnson started last year instead of TJ Finley, who is now the quarterback at Auburn. He started. This game was crazy. I mean, there was just all sorts of weirdness about this game. If you guys remember this game, October, late at night, this game was played at the Swamp last year in Florida. It was so much fog that they couldn't even put the game on, how they normally show you the sidelines. They had to show you different angles because there was so much fog you couldn't even see it from the top. The announcers were struggling to see the game because that's how thick the fog was. And at the very end, it was the very end of the fourth quarter, the tight end, who's now the starting tight end, who's catching a lot of balls for Max Johnson, he was just starting. It was just his freshman year, just starting that game. It was actually in the fourth quarter when he started, and one of the Florida players, because they were just dominating. Florida was just dominating this game, and the Florida cornerback ripped the shoe off of the tight end and threw it 40 yards down the field. Of course, that's unnecessary roughness or some kind of penalty that they threw on him. Unsportsmanlike conduct, that's what it was. And so they gave LSU, it was going into the fourth down. That gave LSU the first down with a minute left. And the kicker comes on, and he's got to kick a 57-yard field goal. And when you're looking at this field goal, you can barely see the uprights to the field goal. And he kicks it, and I mean, he makes it right down the middle. Crazy, crazy game. They ended up winning that. And that's pretty much how Max Johnson was able to kind of get his foot in the door to becoming the starting quarterback. Do I think he's still the starting quarterback? I really don't know. I've been really iffy about him the whole entire time. But there's a lot of crazy tension about Florida and LSU. At the end of spring practice for Florida freshmen and the whole entire team, their seniors, got the reprieve because it was in the springtime of 2021. The Florida players had to run the stadium and they had to run all the whole entire stadium of the swamp. So they had to punish, they punished the Florida players by running stadiums against the LSU game. So enough talking about the LSU game. Who do you like? No sevens. I really think that LSU is struggling with offense and defense right now. So my take is that I really like Florida minus 10.5. I don't know what's going to happen with LSU with Ed Orgeron. So I'm just going to go with the surefire pick. I'm taking Florida minus 10.5 because I just think that Florida, with all that craziness and everything else, I think that they're going to come out and just be competitive, and I'm not sure what's going to happen to LSU. So Florida minus 10.5. All right, so next up we have Texas A&M minus 8.5 at Missouri. So like I was just saying about Bama's win streak, Texas A&M, they're celebrating, they're happy, they're on top of the world. Jimbo Fisher is no longer on the somewhat hot seat of getting things done, not getting things done at Texas A&M. And that's a really hard school to recruit. It's not an easy school because it's an agriculture and military school. But anyway, so Texas A&M is going into Missouri. Missouri's having an up and down roller coaster season like they pretty much always do since they joined the SEC back in 2013. But I see a little bit of a letdown for Texas A&M in the first half. Missouri might gain a little bit of traction, but Texas A&M is riding an all-time high. Their confidence is really good. They're doing really well. The question is their starting backup quarterback. How is he doing? He took a really nasty hit against Alabama. He came back to help win the game. So my situation is Missouri is just, they're all over the place. They're not Alabama. Texas A&M is going to have a little bit of a letdown, but I still like Texas A&M. So I'm going to take Texas A&M, but I'm going to buy down that 1.5. So it's going to be Texas A&M minus 7. All right, so next up we have Alabama at Mississippi State. Seems to be a pattern right here this week. So as we already discussed, Alabama lost, and they're no longer the number one team. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. You know, Nick Saban was not happy about that game. He does not like losing to his assistants, especially having his record tarnished like that. Something you could definitely hang your hat on if you're Nick Saban, 24-0, now 24-1 like we discussed earlier. They go and play at Mississippi State. I feel really bad for Mississippi State. Alabama's going to play like their butts on fire. They're going to play pissed off. They're going to want to take somebody's head off. And Mississippi State, well, you guys are just going to be the tackling dummies for this. I mean, there's nothing else really to dissect. Alabama's going to come over there and just steamroll Mississippi State. I mean, this game I expected to be about 80-3. I mean, they're just going to play that kind of piss off, just that kind of game. So I'm taking Alabama minus the 17. Let's roll with it. And that was no pun intended for Roll Tide. But, I mean, it's just the air raid offense for Mississippi State. Mike Leach, he's pretty much been figured out. And that's what a lot of people were saying about Mike Leach for the Mississippi State. That when he just does the same thing, cookie cutter over and over again. And in the SEC, you got to be fresh. You got to keep on mixing it up because, these are very talented coaches and they're going to figure out your game plan pretty quickly. Next up is Friday's game. So Friday. Did I say Friday? Friday's night game. Clemson at Syracuse. I believe at Syracuse, if I'm not mistaken, help me out, guys. I believe this is called the Kidney Dome, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure about that, but it doesn't matter. Clemson is minus 14. Their offense is struggling. Their defense is, I don't know where their defense is at. They want to play competitive and everything else, but their offense is MIA. Lots and lots to figure out, but I think Clemson is just a more dominant team in this. I really do like Clemson. Really not a lot to dissect here either. It's plain straightforward. Let's go with Clemson minus 14 beating Syracuse. All right, and I even added them to the bully pick too. I don't know why I didn't have them before. Trying to keep this under 15 minutes, and guys, I'm right at 10 minutes, so I'm looking great. I'm just running right through these. All right, Oklahoma State at Texas. I hate Texas. Just flat out, I hate them. They were beating up on Oklahoma the whole entire game. 33 seconds later, you're going to let Oklahoma's running back run 33 yards to the end zone, score a touchdown, knocked me completely out of that game, cost me a win last week. You know, I mean, even during halftime, they were up 27-7. How in the world do you let this happen? Texas has no defense. It's just absolute garbage. And if it wasn't for this pick, I would take Texas and throw them in the garbage pile along with Notre Dame and everybody else who's been hurting me. Oklahoma State's got a really good offense. I say that, but like I said, you know, it's up and down, kind of like Missouri's offense. Texas has got a great offense and no defense. So the point spread is 59.5. I see Oklahoma and State and Texas kind of being like the Oklahoma-Texas game last week. Lots and lots of firepower, no defense. I kind of like the 60 points, but I'm going to buy down at half a point. I'm going to take the over at over at 59 points. So that's what I'm doing. I know, guys, I went right through this pretty quickly this week. Didn't spend a lot of time dissecting games. Who needs to? We already know what all these teams are about. Let's just go ahead and get some wins. And I hope you guys have a great Saturday. Good luck with all your picks. Please comment below on who do you like. And that craps video is in production right now. So stay tuned, and I have a craps video coming out in the next couple of days. But guys, have a great Saturday, a great weekend, and I will talk to you next week.